So we're here live, though, with Matt Ortega, and he is a Democrat running in the June primary for the 14th district, which we all know as the district that Eric Swalwell resigned from earlier today. So I'm here with Matt. And Matt, let's just start. Good, thank you for being on. You're the guinea pig here, first time ever live. So
Yeah,
first of all, give me your give me the stump. Give me the Ortega stump speech.
sure. Well, I'll start with the way I started all the time, since a lot of people don't know who I am. I'm a husband, father, small business owner, and union member. I grew up in Hayward, just off Harder and Mission, until I was about a teenager, and then we moved to the Tri Valley. I went to San Juan Valley High School, graduated in 2002, and studied political science and history at the University of Arizona until '06. And the first campaign I worked on out of college was to unseat one of the last Republican members of Congress in Richard Pombo. I was with the
Mm.
Defenders of Wildlife Action Fund, and kind of cut my teeth and found out I loved working on campaigns. I worked on healthcare in 2007 when Schwarzenegger had his year of health reform. Before I moved to DC and worked under Governor Howard Dean in the 2008 cycle to elect Barack Obama. Turns out when you do digital graphic design type stuff on campaigns, there was much more gainful employment in DC than anywhere else back then. So I stuck around for over a decade, working on clean energy and climate after the Waxman-Markey bill passed, working on healthcare, on comprehensive immigration reform, working with America's Voice, who was instrumental in the DACA and DAPA fight. And then I joined the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2015. I was one of the first hires. I was a senior communications and digital aide, working primarily on rapid response, and then went back into digital consulting after the primary. Eventually worked with a consulting firm called Middle Seat that made its name with AOC, Beto O'Rourke's Senate campaign against Ted Cruz. And during the pandemic, my first son was born. My wife, who's from East Oakland,
Mm.
met her in DC. We decided let's go be home with family, and so we moved back to the Bay, where I started my own digital consulting firm, which is actually named E23 after my grandparents' street in Oakland they lived on. I was partially raised there after my mother passed away, so I have very fond memories of being in Oakland near the lake. And when this um, seat opened, I'd been thinking about, running. I know Swallow from your reporting had been vying for the Alameda County DA job, and so
Yeah,
had he had received that, which is a whole nother situation, I'd given
yeah,
consideration to a special election run back then. So by the time he decided to run for governor, I'd already kind of had that conversation with my wife. Had like kind of talked to some folks already, so I decided to jump in December, understanding that it was a short window, and it was going to be an uphill climb for a first time candidate like myself. But I've worked on campaigns for many years, and I think 2026 is a time when people are kind of upset with a lot of politicians. They're
yeah,
willing to look at people who are kind of from the outside but have experience, know how to take the fight to Republicans who've been part of that. Some of those biggest fights going back for the last
yeah.
15 years and seeing Republicans up close. And so I thought, I got nothing to lose. I'm not giving up the seat. My wife and my family are supportive, and so I thought, what the hell? I'll toss my hat in and see what I could do. So the last few months have just been talking to voters, trying to get as much as I can do in on the ground, and yeah, that brings us to this really wild moment we find ourselves in.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, we're both in the middle of this since Friday, right? Since Friday. We're both in the middle. Is this just like me? Has this been like, it's been a whirlwind, like been on the phone and you are now going to be center stage more than you may have been if this had just been a regular race. Your thoughts of the formal resignation earlier today of Eric Swalwell. And I will tell you that I was on Fox News and I was sitting in this seat and they did a little opening montage. And so I'm looking at myself just like this as I'm watching the opening of the show. And I see all these clips of Eric Swalwell and I feel myself being like overwhelmed of like this just anger and disbelief. It was really weird. So it kind of brought down my vibe, right? So have you been feeling that too? Like it just not just as a candidate, but also as just a constituent of this is the whole country's looking at your district. Your thoughts on the whole matter.
Yeah. He's definitely been out there as a national figure because of the impeachment fights and his feud with Trump, and to have it turn this way where the district is kind of lifted up as kind of an oddball district because of who was there, and I think the stories about people have heard, kind of rumors about him. I know when I was in DC, I heard rumors about infidelity, but there's not really a whole lot you could do with that when you hear those things second and third hand. So it's just kind of,
Hmm.
um, you know, um,
So when were you in when would you have heard this in up in DC or in the Capitol?
I mean, around the time he was running for president,
Ah,
but it's all stuff you hear from other people. You don't know what's
right,
true
right.
and what's not. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, there were rumors." But unless you had access to the people who came forward bravely, and who were willing to put their names out there, there was no real way to other than just kind of
Yeah,
the whole whisper mill and stuff like that. But I feel bad for his wife and his kids. I think they should be left alone and left to their privacy. I put in my statement about Swalwell's resignation that they don't bear any of the shame of his actions. I've known people in my life who've been victims of this before, and there's some of the bravest, strongest people I've ever met, and so my heart definitely goes out to the folks who've been coming forward, and I assume we'll hear more people. It sounds like from what I'm seeing out
yeah,
there, but
yeah,
it's a tragic situation, and it really makes you think about the broken system we're in and how elite impunity allows someone to get to this level. He ran for president, he ran for governor. I never heard rumors about harassment or assault, but
right.
that
No, yeah,
that to me was really the shocking part of it, that it went like that. I'm not someone who someone's infidelity with their spouse, that's their business and for them to work out. I'm not someone who's here to figure wag and stuff like that, but the harassment and assault charges were really what kind of took me aback, and why I decided that not only should he drop his gubernatorial bid, but he should resign. We have to set a standard that, especially among Democrats, that we don't tolerate this kind of stuff. Whereas the Republicans, for many years, have been just fine allowing folks like this, including the president, to lead their party.
yeah. So the other news today is we're gonna have a special election. This is gonna be really strange. I don't recall this happening anywhere else. Where we'll have the so we will have everybody listening, watching. Let's all figure this out together. So we're gonna have a June primary, as we've been, if you've been campaigning, I've been following a June primary, June 2nd, there's the election. Then that is for, maybe this is the best way to say it, that is for the next 2 years, starting January 2027. So we're now going to have a special election that will be 2 weeks later on June 14th. And if whoever runs, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same 9 that are in this primary. If nobody gets 50%, then we'll have another special general in August. And this would be whoever wins this will just serve out through the end of the year, which would essentially be serving out Eric Swallow's current term. So this news that we'd have this resignation, do you think this changes the dynamic of the primary race? And are you going to run in the special?
Well, so in the dynamics of the primary race, I definitely seen an uptick of interest in the race.
Yeah,
When I got into it, I was one of the things I was kind of surprised by was how very few outlets were really kind of covering an open seat in the Bay Area, which doesn't happen that often. I know Latifah Simon had her race last cycle, but beyond that, it doesn't really happen that often. And so I'd always been
yeah,
surprised, and why I'm always, I'm a subscriber to you, and appreciate that you are covering it, especially for someone like me who doesn't have built-in relationships with a lot of outlets to just get them to respond to me. Um, so that had surprised me, but now there's more interest because of the situation, and I've seen it on social media. People who are friends of mine who support me were saying, you need to look at Matt's campaign, and I've seen an uptick in support that way. In terms of special, for me, I decided not to jump into that. There's the whole hassle of having to file again,
Yeah.
having to open up a whole separate campaign committee, a separate bank account, and I had trouble with ROV just even for the 2026 race. I was given incorrect information. I had petition forms that were blank on the backside. And so I missed a lot of days because I didn't have everything I needed,
Mm.
and that's not a thing I would like to go through again so soon. And but on top of that, like you were saying that if no candidate reaches 50% in June, it goes till August. I can tell you, having worked in DC for a number of years, August recess, no one is in charge, no one is in DC. If it goes to August, no one's going to get seated until September. And I can tell you, working on during campaign season in DC, that there's very few people there. It's basically a ghost town until the new Congress, unless the banks need to be
Yeah.
bailed out, like in 2008 when they bring people back. So it just didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me to put the effort into a special election for what I described as a 4 month vanity term. Especially if I don't make it to the top two in January on June 2nd, then what's the point? It's just running for a separate race that I honestly can't deliver on the things that I want to do, which are on housing, healthcare, childcare, and pushing back on this administration. And so it just didn't make sense. So whoever does run, enjoy the free vacation basically, because you'll be paid to do nothing.
Uh, y so, but are you so, actually, all the resignation stuff going on here, do
Yeah,
you in your strategy or your view of the race from the inside, do you think there's any changes? I could think maybe that what you mentioned, the increased attention that's
yeah,
now gonna be on, like, who's the guy or the gal who's gonna replace Swalwell now? That guy who, did these things,
yeah.
allegedly?
Um, you know, I certainly think it will draw more national attention. I kind of and part of my calculus in even getting in the race was that even before the whole resignation situation was that a lot of people were going to run, and that we don't see a lot of people trying to take advantage of the top two system. They still think of it in terms of kind of like first past the poll in each party, and I understood that with so many people running, and we've seen an uptick in Democratic turnout in special elections all across the country, anywhere from 13 to 30 point swings. That puts a second Democrat in that second spot very likely. We have two Republicans on the
Mhm.
ballot, so potentially they'll split the kind of nominal 20-25% that a Republican draws in this race, maybe less depending on if more Democrats turn out. And so that presented an interesting opportunity, I thought, with a number of elected officials running. To have someone who has national political experience, which I don't think anyone else in the race could say. I've been attacked by Republicans since I was 21 years old, back in the blog days. A Fox News contributor had attacked me on immigration, saying I was ringing the Taco Bell and asking if my
Uh,
parents were legal. And I was 21. And all the way up until the first Trump administration, where Pete Hegseth had attacked me on Fox News over comments I had made. So, I've been in those trenches. I know what Republicans are like in DC, and so I thought I I I come to the table with something I think a lot of other people in this race don't have, and I think DC is a fundamentally different beast from a supermajority in the state legislature, or all Democrats on
yeah.
a city council. It's a fundamentally different fight, and I needed to know that there was someone in this race who had that kind of political killer instinct that I think this moment requires.
Yeah, so and thank you again for coming on live. We got a good crew here watching here live tonight. Thank you everybody always for supporting East Bay Insiders. But let me end on this. Uh and I'm just going to make an assertion. I mean, if we did a little poly market thing here, I think the most of the bets would say, like, well, who's going to finish first? It would be Aisha Wahab. There's a battle for second. And it seems to me that you're waging it and you're the only one. It was one of the things, you're already on my radar, but I started noticing that, like, Matt Ortega seems to be the only one who understands here, like, I need to get to November. How do I get to November where everybody else is just kind of doing this regular dance that I see and it just bothers me in East Bay politics when it's basically what I call they pull the playbook. There's just a standard playbook. You pull it over, pull it off the shelf, and then everybody plays it. Get the endorsements, do this and that, and do the mailer. Go home, and hopefully you succeed. But you seem to be really you've come at some of the your opponents that are also likely fighting for a spot in November. Well, what's the strategy? You because you've been coming in hot, and I like that, and I like that. I
Yeah.
like those quotes.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked on campaigns my entire life, so I've been in tough fights, in the past, and for me, as a first timer who doesn't have a political base to start with, I don't, have established relationships with, certain groups and things of that nature. I knew I had to approach this differently than any other candidate would. I knew going in I wasn't gonna get a lot of endorsements. I'm very proud of, endorsements I haven't received. Honor Pack has endorsed me, which is a Latino LGBTQ PAC who supports LGBTQ candidates and allies, as well as uh, the Citizens Impeachment group that has formed has endorsed me, and I have some endorsements coming from youth organizations over the course of the month. And that's one of the things I've seen is that a lot of young people have reached out to me, who are excited about what I stand for. And that's something else I noticed is that if you go to any of the other candidates' campaign websites, I couldn't tell you necessarily what issues they are fighting for and where they stand on them. And so I decided I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to literally put a ton of
Yeah,
issue planks on my website, and I
that is true.
consistently add to that.
You are
Um,
plan man, that's for sure. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great. And sometimes I honestly, for me, I'm like, hey, this guy makes me. This is like major league stuff. You have a major league like uh, website and campaign, and like actually, here's what you've thought things through, and so that caught my attention. Like there are some that looks like I said, it looks like a template website. Put the happy pictures about what I do. Here's the media page that's blank because nobody's written about them or nobody has written anything. And maybe I said something negative and they don't want to use that. So it's a blank page, right? But
yeah.
so I mean, you've been seem to be focused on at least a little couple weeks ago or more on Rocky Israni, who we don't know much, and we're going to find out soon uh, how much money she raised. She says she had 2,000,000, like in 24 hours, early in January, because of the filing is very much, it's not as transparent as even state and local. We don't know, and we don't know where it came from. Uh, why was she the one that Matt Ortega is like sort of like the knives at?
Well, I mean, it was just one of those things where, someone had reached out to me saying, "Hey, you ought to look at where she's given her money to," and so I did. I looked, and one of the names that
Yeah,
literally
and
made me
you have an
say,
attack website too.
"Yeah,
That is
yeah,
impressive.
that's what I do." So I designed my own website. I built it myself. That's what I do professionally, and so when I found out what her donations looked like, I decided to put that together on a website called realrocky.com. Rakhi, is how you spell Rocky. And I'm very much a person who's like, if you give people information, they can make good decisions. And it was one of those things that, like you said, no one really knows who she is. The rumors I had heard was that she was running explicitly to go after Wahab because of the gas bill, which she testified against at the committee hearing. And that's all I really knew about her. But then when someone reached out, I was like, "Hey, you ought to look at who she's giving money to." And one of the names I saw was Laura Loomer. I literally like exclaimed out loud because there's only one thing Laura Loomer is known for, and that's
Yeah.
being anti-Muslim. And so it's like one of those things where it's like, why would you give this person money? There's no credible answer to that question. And the fact that she's unknown and is running on this like cheery, positive message about, we need to cut out the extremists and we need to have inclusionary politics. Her donation track record suggests otherwise.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we won't know her donors until the next day or so, and by then, mail ballots go out in a few weeks, and that's not enough
Yeah.
time to find someone who's been spending $2 million telling people how they're, this positive candidate when they've given money to people who are anti-gay Republicans who are, I think one of them she's given a lot of money to was accused of actually physically assaulting Marjorie Taylor Greene. Um, so for me, I just felt like having worked on campaigns, you need to define your opponents before they can define themselves.
Yeah.
And this was something to define her with. And it's not made up. It's not an attack. It's the truth. It's the flat facts. And
Yeah.
she needs the answer for that. And as far as I'm concerned, her answer to the intercept that was, her donations aren't signing off on all of that person's views, especially for Laura Loomer. There is no other views to go off of. So I would very much love to hear an answer to that. As someone who I worked with Muslim advocates and who used to be based in Oakland during the
Yeah.
first Trump term, my mother-in-law's family are Muslim immigrants from Ethiopia, and so I take that very personally. These are communities that are vulnerable that need our support, and not someone who is funding vile bigotry against them.
Yeah. So a couple things you mentioned, finance reports coming out for all the races. And according to you subscribe to East Bay Insiders.
Yeah,
I'll have all the capsules and then breakdown, especially your race, to see because we're in the dark right now. We really don't know. I've asked some of you guys, what have you raised and have written about it, but we don't know. We don't know much, and that will be coming soon. It's been a whirlwind week for all of us already, and it's only Tuesday, right? Oh my gosh. And second, I was like, you got all of you the candidates have been in two candidate forums, and I've been very impressed with the people who hosted them. They're a little long. You had 2 hours. I don't even know how you guys 2 hours of questioning, but
yeah,
still, they were good questions. It was good answers, a good field. But I will tell you. So we'll end on this. It's been put out. It's on Eventbrite. You can go. You'll see an ad tomorrow. East Bay Insiders newsletter. We're going to have a doubleheader debate on May 2nd of this race in the 14th district, and also in the same area is the Senate district, 10th district, which is being vacated by Aisha Wahab. It'll both be at the Sprinkler Fitters Union Hall in Hayward on Saturday, May 2nd, and it's a double header, and it's going to be hot. It's going to be a debate, and you're going to be there, right, man?
yeah. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to
All
it.
right, all right. And
I
so
got a, I
it's
got
going
a
to be a
new
debate.
sport coat and everything for it.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm going to get one too. I'm going to get one too. I need a new sport coat. But yeah, it's going to be a debate, everybody, not a candidate forum. And I've been complaining about this for many years. Every 2 years, it's like, we're going to do it. I don't like candidate forums. I don't like the question, question, question. Let's have a new question, question, question. We're going to just let you guys go at it. Here's the questions, and who can think on their feet? This is a chance for if somebody may not raise money to use their wits and their intellect to get votes. So that's going to be on May 2nd, debate day doubleheader in the East Bay. Matt Ortega, thank you so much. You will be on the ballot in June, and on May. In a couple weeks. In a couple weeks, the ballot will be in the mail, and you'll be there on CA14. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you for the invite.
All right, and I'm Steve Tavares, eastbayinsiders.substack.com. And also, program note on the podcast this weekend, we're expecting Jason Teramoto, who worked on the Pete Stark campaign, and he's been around as a consultant, and he's going to have some great stories about Eric Swalwell, including how the time in 2012 He almost punched out Eric Swalwell. So look for that on the weekend. East Bay Insiders podcast. Again, I'm Steve Tavares. Matt Ortega, thank you again, and thank you for everybody for watching. It's a good crowd here, and thank you, and have a good night.
All right, thank you.